Okay, so we're going to talk to Suzanne about how she feels with this exercise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure she's following me with whatever motion I give her, and then also if I ask her to, that she can resist any motion that I give her. So with a young horse, you want to make sure that you're following as much as you can so that they don't feel trapped and they don't feel like you're impeding the natural forward that they were given. So if you have a horse that is acting up or taking off or anything, you can't always follow that motion because you need to hold yourself strong so that they feel that and they slow down. So she's going to get to feel what it's like if I change rhythm or change gait on her, and she's going to do her very best to follow with me. Okay, so Suzanne, would you find that that balance point for me without me holding you? Okay. So there we've got that nice balanced point to where she can sit on her seat bones without leaning forward, without leaning back, and that her horse feels like she's not leaning on him or her too much. And so Suzanne, what we're going to start doing is I want you to follow the motion I give you. Okay, so don't create the motion because I haven't wiggled yet. So that is a very common thing that happens, is that when we want our horses to go, we create all this forward motion with our hips and our bellies, and the problem is then we're unbalancing our horses. So what we're going to try and do is you're going to wait until I create a motion for you to follow, okay? So there. So that was a little slow timed. So I want to see if we're going to transition down to halt again. So halt. Very nice transition. She didn't lean on my fingertips. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transition back into a walk or a trot, but I'm going to create the motion first and she's going to follow with me. Very much better. So it took her a little less time there to follow with me. Now Suzanne, I want you to think about opening and closing that hip flexor a little bit more because you're leaning on me very slightly. There we go. That's much better. Okay, so now I'm gonna start playing around with her poor hip. I'm gonna start changing my gait and my rhythm without letting her know what I'm doing. So there, I increase my motion, and it's up to Suzanne to make sure that her hip opens more. And then I slow down my motion, and so she had to go back to holding that hip very slightly. And I open that motion very greatly, and she has to follow me or else I feel like she's pulling on me, and then I stop. She did a wonderful job there of holding her hip and following with the motion that I gave her. So you just balance yourself on that seat for me. Good. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a whole bunch of motion, and I'm going to ask Suzanne to hold her body and support herself so that she's not following my motion right now. It's important for you to be aware of being able to do that on your horse. Not to say you're going to need to do it all the time, but to, as she said a moment ago, to compartmentalize the muscles in your body so that you know what you're doing at every single stride. Okay, so I'm going to create a motion. I want you to resist it as much as you can. Okay, so there you see her upper body coming forward very slightly. So I'm going to create a smaller motion for her to get the feel of it. Once you hold with your hip flexor. Now I have a very, very hard time creating the motion because she's putting a block there that says no. Okay. And now what I want you to think about doing is having a relaxed leg, a relaxed knee, and a relaxed ankle, even though you're resisting that motion. You can balance the seat for me. Because if we are bracing in our legs and our knees just to support ourselves, then we're going to be kind of perching out of our saddle. So I want her to think about using her upper core, her lower core, her psoas muscles, and her lower back to support her stabilization. Okay, so let's try it again without a clenched knee or hip. I'm going to create a motion. I want you to resist it. Much better. So there, she's still got a little wiggle, but I don't feel like she's bracing against me. She's holding. There. That's much better. Does that feel better?
Yeah.
Good. So she's doing little bits of a half halt for me, so I can feel a little bit of a pause. Very nice, and you can just relax that down onto there for me. Just sit back on your seat. There you go. So she got a chance to feel what it was like if her horse creates all of this motion. Riding young horses it's a wonderful thing to get into, but you have to be very skilled at understanding your body before you start doing it. Okay, Suzanne, if you'd like to stand up, we're going to switch. Okay, let me find my balance point here. Okay, alrighty. So here I've got my happy balance point. I don't feel like I'm leaning forward. I don't feel like I'm leaning back. I can keep the back rungs of the seat or the chair off the ground. Now, I'd like you to create a motion, and I'm going to follow it for you. So there you can feel I'm really not pulling on you too much. I'm not bracing on your fingers. I'm just making your job easy as I can anyway. So I want you to start changing the rhythm for me. She's doing transitions down to a halt there for me. She's making my job hard here. So I got sticky on her. So this is something that every rider can work on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how advanced you are. You can always learn these things. Okay. So now she's going to start creating a motion, and I'm going to try my best to resist it with my core and my seat. Okay. So there I'm resisting. Without clenching my thighs, I'm just holding with my body. Okay? So I'm still giving her little bits. I'm not like slamming down into her back. However, I'm really holding.
Serious core muscles.
Trying. Okay? Alright, you can just let that relax down to the ground for me. So these are little exercises you can go home and play around with. If you've got a lovely lady like Suzanne who's going to make it very hard for you, even better. So these are very important things to think about.